Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to another episode of the Andrew Parker Show. Each episode we talk politics, Israel, and the law. And thank you very much for joining us. Go to theandrewparkershow.com to subscribe, follow us, leave your email there. You will get the next episode dropped immediately when it is dropped. And this episode, I'd like to talk about an upcoming election, a critical election, certainly for the city of Minneapolis, which is at a crossroads. Also for the state of Minnesota, and frankly, it may well be a harbinger for things to come across the country. New York City has an election for mayor that we have all heard about, talked about for many months, and it appears as though the socialist communist candidate, Zohran Mamdani, will win in the heavily Jewish-populated city of New York. As amazing as that may seem, he is openly anti-Israel. He is openly opposed to the Jews being able to and allowed to reestablish their home in the Middle East, in the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael. Openly opposed to it, despite the fact that the Jews are the indigenous people to that land and, in fact, have lived there consistently, continuously for thousands of years. Somehow he has this belief that Palestinians own that land. They simply do not. But whether or not we want to argue over ownership of the land, it is the Jewish homeland. So Mamdani is totally opposed to that. And in a similar way, the candidate for the Democratic Socialists, with the label Democratic Socialists of America attached to him and fully supportive of their platform, is Omar Fateh here in the city of Minneapolis. Some call him the mini Mamdani. But it is the Democratic Socialists of America, which tout having some 80,000 members across the country, which, if you think about it, is not that many members. But they have become organized, very organized, and ground zero is right here in the city of Minneapolis, as there is open discussion about socialism, communism taking hold. And I'm going to talk now for a minute about who are the Democratic Socialists of America? Who is this organization that Omar Fateh has decided to attach to his candidacy for mayor in the city of Minneapolis, and almost got the DFL endorsement, but for the corruption that occurred in counting the vote, he may well have gotten it. He proclaimed having the endorsement from the Minneapolis DFL, but that was overturned by the state DFL party, citing inaccuracies and a number of faulty problems in counting the vote at the Minneapolis DFL convention a few months ago. So neither he nor incumbent mayor Jacob Fry will have the Minneapolis DFL endorsement when going to the polls by the time this drops, probably within a day, the Minneapolitans will be going to the polls. So what is the DSA? Who is the DSA? And by the way, this is an important question, not only because Omar Fateh is running, he's running as a Democrat, but he openly speaks of supporting the ideals of the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. In addition, there are at least 4 members of the 13-member city council in the city of Minneapolis who openly support the Democratic Socialists of America, and there are another 4 members who routinely vote with the Democratic Socialists of America members, making kind of a block of 7 or 8 on the 13-member city council that push the ideals of the DSA. There are a couple of others that are kind of swing voters that sit in the middle. And there are, I would say, presently 3 members who are center-of-the-road Democrats, liberal Democrats, that you could identify years ago as Democrats and can identify today a little bit less so as Democrats because the Democratic Party has moved so far to the left, and the center of the Democratic Party is no longer where it was. And that is why many Democratic centrists actually seek the support of the far left wing part of the party and do not push back and oppose it. You see it at the national level. Some crazy ideas for liberal or conservative, crazy ideas about gender, about what is and isn't oppression, about security and safety, law enforcement, about housing, about the economy, and owning the means of production. Really socialist, communist ideas that are now much closer to the center of the Democratic Party than at any time during my lifetime, at least. So if we elect a city council which has majority control by the socialists, the communists here, for 4 more years, it is going to have enormous repercussions for the ability of the city of Minneapolis to get out of the funk that it is in. Again, I recommend that you go see the documentary or pull it up. Go see it. Pull it up. Precarious State. Go to precarioustate.com. There's a website. You can pull it down. You can go to theandrewparkershow.com. Go to the tab Resources, and you can get the documentary there as well. And it will explain where the city of Minneapolis was, where it is now, where it is heading, what the issues are, and the dark underbelly of this city now showing itself in all of its negative, very negative aspects, sadly, very sadly. And it is getting worse with the DSA's control of this city council. Now they've got Omar Fateh as their candidate, and he wraps himself in this, although he is running as a Democrat, to run against Jacob Frey. Now, Jacob Frey and I have known each other for a long time. You may recall that there were 7 candidates for mayor of the city of Minneapolis when he first ran. Before he was mayor, he was not the incumbent. When he first ran, and I put out an invitation to all 7 of those candidates, and only one showed up on the show to be interviewed, and that was Jacob Fry. And he won that election. Now, I would call that a 1-to-1 correlation between coming on the show and winning, but some may they may dispute that a little bit. So Jacob, and it hasn't been helpful to him to come on the show since, so he hasn't. But I talk to him somewhat frequently, and we don't agree on much. But he is someone who believes in liberal policy, but not crazy leftist policy. And the DSA is all about leftists. So, what are we talking about? Democratic Socialists of America that are trying to take over this city, and frankly, over the last 4 years, have been in a strong position of power. Jacob Fry has really held them back from doing everything that they want, but it has been difficult, and they have been able to do quite a bit of damage. The DSA states that they fight for workers and against capitalism, against business. In certain places in their platform, they talk about the fact that business and owners do not have a place at the table with them. They fight against racism and all forms of oppression, they say. Of course, I would add, unless the oppression is against whites or Christians, or certainly if it's against Jews, they don't fight that. In fact, they join in on that sort of oppression. Hard to actually say with a straight face that Jews have not been oppressed or over the millennia have not suffered from enormous repercussions of hate against the Jewish people. And it's happening every day now in this country, and in Europe it's even worse. So talk about being oppressed, few, if any, as oppressed. But that's not included in this group's oppression category. They believe in communist ideals, and they believe in the means of production being owned by the collective, energy policy being driven by the collective, and transportation policy, as well as housing, certainly. They talk about tenants and organizing tenants, and owners of property, landlords, have no place at the table to discuss policy. It should just be tenants. They believe in single-payer health care for all. They believe openly in defunding the police, openly in a Green New Deal, openly in trans rights, openly with rent control, and in fact removing the ownership from individual property owners and giving it back to the people. Free housing for all. Live where we want, when we want, and how we want. That is a slogan they use in the DSA. Basic income for all. And And so what does that look like? Well, I will tell you, the first thing that it looks like is business owners will not stay in a market where these sorts of rules are being applied. Why is that? Well, because they can go to many other markets where they can actually make a living. And so they're not going to stay in this market. And when business owners leave, the tax base gets hollowed out. And when the tax base gets hollowed out, there are no services that are being provided, including safety and security services. So that's the first thing that happens. The tax base gets hollowed out. Secondly, when business leaves because they are being treated as these communists are suggesting, and there is no private ownership of property, when businesses leave, people become unemployed. They're out of their job because their owner left. And so they don't have a place to go to work. They don't have a pay stub. They don't have a deposit into their account. So they have no money. And then when they go out and look for other employment, which a burgeoning market would allow, but that's capitalism. They don't want that. When they go look for another, there isn't another job for them. So they're sitting around, and now they can't pay rent. And so they become a squatter. So we get a city full of squatters with a hollowed-out tax base. That's what we get. And pretty soon, you have boarded-up buildings. And you have chain-link locks on businesses that used to be thriving. If you walk downtown Minneapolis, you can see that a bit today. And in Uptown, it's even worse. But you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at the history of the city of St. Louis. That's what they did there. Or how about Detroit? Now, Detroit had some pressures beyond Democratic Socialists of America taking over the city and destroying the city. They had the effects of business shutting down because of external impacts on those businesses. But that's what happens when businesses shut down or are treated in this fashion. And then when you add to that, this unemployment, hollowed out tax base, shuttered businesses leaving. When you add to that, because there's a major pressure on people now. And what happens when there's that major pressure? Well, crime rates go up. And what these people want to do, the Democratic Socialists of America, is defund the police right at the time when the pressure for crime rates is just going through the roof. Crime is getting more violent and worse. They want to defund the police, those that enforce our laws and protect us more so. Neighborhoods, protection. They say they're going to replace the police with these other, social workers and neighbors taking care of one another. Yeah, against these gangs. And that's where kids will turn. They'll turn to the gangs when they've lost their job and they can't possibly find another because there aren't any. We're in a crossroads. That's where we're at. And by the way, housing, it'll get way worse. Nobody's got any money to pay for the rent. And Democratic Socialists of America say, well, there won't be rent. Everyone can just live for free. Well, that'll be good. Live for free. The owner's got no income, or maybe there isn't an owner. Maybe all the tenants own the property because at the end of the day, that's the communist ideal. So what happens when all the tenants own the property? Do you think the property might get run down? Nobody has any money to put into the property? Something breaks, it doesn't get fixed. Pretty soon it's a complete slum with a blight on the neighborhood. That's what the Democratic Socialists of America stand for. And these people are getting elected. Lastly, and as you know, very importantly to me, and it should be to all of you, philosophically, Judeo-Christian values in this country are the fundamental foundational element to the founding of this country. And it is based on those ideals that people came together for the American experiment, leaving behind the old world, Europe, Britain, to come here for a better life based on those fundamental values. Who else in the world stands by those and cherishes them and holds them tight and will defend them to the end? The state of Israel. Very few others, but the state of Israel does. That's why it is the greatest, single greatest, without exception, ally to the United States anywhere in the world. I'm speaking now to Tucker Carlson, who says, what does Israel do for us? Are you a moron? You're not. You're smart. So you must have some other reason that you're saying things that are so easily answered. You take for granted a country that stands by the same fundamental principles that we do, and you would just cast them aside? A huge error, in addition to all the other things that Israel does for the United States that either go unnoticed or go with notice, but are not viewed as important as they really should be. Such as the military capability of Israel, yes, in part supported by the United States, no doubt, but Israel becomes the laboratory for whether these things work or don't work. And they suffer the consequences. We don't have to. We are now ready and able to employ because we have seen what is in real warfare happening with our weaponry that is being used by the Israelis and how they go about using it. Huge advantage. But it goes well beyond that. Medical inventions, both in military and in warfare, but also in civilian life, that has come out of the state of Israel for the betterment and saving lives here in the United States. All the other innovations as well. But most importantly, by far, the values. Why do I have that little digression? Because the DSA, in its platform, believe it or not, says any DSA member who believes that Israel should exist has committed an expellable offense. Now, that's not a quote, but effectively, that is their statement. And it gets worse. Here is actually what, they took down off of their website, but it is what was passed by the Twin Cities Democratic Socialists of America that Omar Fateh wraps himself in, and that several council members that I'll go over in a little bit when I explain who's running and who we need to be voting for, because we are at a crossroads. This city could be destroyed if some of these crackpot lunatics, really, it is so destructive. If the Ilhan Omar supporters control the city of Minneapolis, as they have while we have watched it go from a beautiful city with so much to offer so many to a destroyed city. Sirens every night. I hear them. I live in the city. I work in the city. I have lived in the city of Minneapolis or its first-ring suburbs, as was mentioned in a previous show recently, my entire life. And I've worked professionally during my entire professional life in the city of Minneapolis. I know what I speak, and it is a disaster and a shame what is happening with this city council and what they're allowing. Jacob Fry is fighting as hard as he can, but the electorate has to wake up. All right, so expelling any member who believes that Israel should exist. Yeah. Now, it doesn't say that verbatim, but here is what it did say, and now they've taken it down, but it's still their platform, their resolution. Be it resolved, all Twin City DSA members who are credibly shown to have proclaimed that they are a Zionist and intend on advancing the interests of the Zionist settler colony, or are a member of or have consciously provided material aid to any Zionist organization, and it goes on and lists a bunch of other organizations, including Christians United for Israel, the Anti-Defamation League, any Zionist lobby group like AIPAC, the American Jewish Committee, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, anyone who supports any of those, even if you support J Street, which is a far-left organization that is not even pro-Israel, you still will be removed. Or if you have consistently and publicly opposed BDS as a legitimate form of struggle, BDS being Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions Movement, which is intended to destroy the state of Israel, the stated intent of it. If you do anything to oppose BDS, you will be considered, if you do any of these things, you will be considered in substantial disagreement with DSA principles and policies and bylaws, thereby committing an expellable offense. But religious membership, spiritual interactions within houses of worship or religious educational institutions that have relationships with Zionist organizations are not necessarily considered endorsements of Zionism. So Zionism, what is Zionism? Some of you may not have ever understood that term, and now when you hear it, it is so vilified that you think it's a negative term. Well, I'll tell you, it is not. It never has been. I grew up as a staunch, unapologetic Zionist. I continue to be such. However, now if I talk publicly about it, I could just as easily get stones thrown at me as get cheers, which is crazy. Zionism is the belief in a Jewish homeland for the Jewish people. That's what it is. And that Jewish homeland for the Jewish people is the homeland that the Jewish people have lived in continuously for thousands of years. And that they, by international law, have a right to. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you a business owner? Are you losing sleep because you feel your partner isn't carrying their weight, or because you no longer share the same vision or values? Are you no longer comfortable going into your own office? Are you walking on eggshells in the company you built? This is Chris Daniels, founding partner of Parker Daniels Keyboard LLC, a premier litigation law firm headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. For more than 30 years, I've specialized in business litigation and have helped hundreds of business owners resolve troubling business disputes. As a former certified public accountant, I get to the heart of the dispute, including financial issues. Business divorce can be messy, time-consuming, and costly, but doing nothing can cost you a lot more. Not just money, but emotionally, physically, and in your personal life. If you and your business partner no longer see eye to eye and you're eager to take a proactive approach and make a change, please call me at 612-355-4100 and schedule a consultation. Or visit our website at www.parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you. Now, the DSA resolution platform goes on to say, effectively, well, in addition to effectively saying any member who believes that Israel should exist has committed an expellable offense and will be expelled. I mean, they are open about it. But it goes on to say members expelled on these grounds may be reconsidered for membership reinstatement, provided they write a statement to membership that, one, demonstrates a basic understanding of Palestinian issues and Zionism. A basic understanding. Well, that would be interesting. If I wrote it, yeah, they would receive it and say, we're not only ostracizing you from the group, but we will be having a hanging out in the back at midnight tonight. I, of course, jest. But if you write a statement demonstrating a basic understanding of Palestinian issues and Zionism, what is the basic understanding? That Jews are the indigenous people of the land of Israel? That Israel is the only democratic state in the entire Middle East? And the Palestinians certainly don't have that? That Palestinians are being murdered left and right by Hamas, the organization that the DSA supports? Well, which basic understanding are we talking about? That the Palestinians and the Jews were each offered their own homeland by the world at the UN back in the late 1940s, and the Jews accepted it even though it was a fraction, a near fingernail of the land that the Jews had every right to. They accepted it. And the Palestinians refused and launched war, which they have been at with Israel and continued for 80 years. Is that the basic understanding? Which other basic understanding are we needing? What is it that Jews offered Palestinians to come back into the land and live side by side with them in peace? That they've offered 5 different peace deals where if they don't want to live in Israel with the Jews, that they can have their own land, their own country, and live side by side in peace, and they've rejected it every single time because that is not what they're interested in? Is that the basic understanding? Boy, it's tough. And by the way, No Jews are welcome in any Arab country, nor to live side by side with Palestinians, nor to live in Gaza after the Jews all left, nor to live in the West Bank with Palestinians. Although there are many Jews that do live in the West Bank, but if there were a country, one of the terms that has always been demanded and required is that no Jews will live there by the Palestinians. It's completely the opposite with Israel, the place that the DSA people and so many others on the far left claim is apartheid, which is the biggest, wrongful statement, false fabrication, blood libel against the Jews. It couldn't be any further from being apartheid in the state of Israel, in which Arabs sit in the Knesset on the Supreme Court. Palestinians have the right to vote if they're citizens of Israel, just like any other country, a democratic country, where if you're a citizen, you can vote. Yeah, is that the basic understanding of Palestinian issues and Zionism? Or that the Palestinians have launched war upon war upon war against Israel, when the hand of peace has been extended by Israel time and time again? The second thing that you have to do, in addition to writing a statement to get back into good graces with the DSA, you have to write a statement demonstrating a basic understanding of Palestinian issues and Zionism. And the second thing is apologize for past anti-solidaristic behaviors with a commitment to putting a new anti-Zionist principles into practice. Then you can get back in. If you hate the Jews enough, you can get back in. That's the DSA. That is who Omar Fateh wraps himself in. That is who a number of members of the Minneapolis City Council, total of 13, a number of the members of those 13 support that sort of platform. It's shocking, isn't it? You don't think we're at a crossroads? We're at a crossroads. Let's talk about that city council now for a minute. First, I've mentioned, the mini Mamdani. And by the way, Mamdani believes this trash too. That's what his attitudes are on Israel. Maybe not down to the letter, but in general speaking. And Fateh is what? A mini Mamdani. Yeah. So let's take a look at the makeup of the 13 council members. They each represent a ward. There are 13 wards in the city of Minneapolis. And just to give you an idea, the 13 members elect their leadership, a president and a vice president of the city council. So these 13 members get to cast their vote for the leadership when they start a new, we'll call it session. And they did that. And they voted for President Elliot Payne, Ward 1, council member, and Aisha Chugtai. Chugtai, in particular, wraps herself in the Democratic Socialists of America. Now, she identifies as a DFL member. All of them do. Robin Wansley of the 2nd Ward identifies openly as a Democratic Socialist of America candidate. I mean, who would do that? She does. And she fully supports those anti-Israel issues. She is an open anti-Semite. She'll dispute that. But there's no, destruction of Zionism, destruction of the state of Israel, no homeland for the Jewish people. And Jews have caused oppression. Not the oppressed. They're not the oppressed, no. caused oppression across the world. Robin Wansley, Second Ward. But there are really four who are openly DSA, I would say, is my opinion. Robin Wansley, Jason Chavez, who was, I believe, campaign manager for Ilhan Omar in the past. You know of Ilhan Omar, I'm sure. So you got Jason Chavez, you got Robin Wansley, you have Arun Chaudhry also. And then you have the vice president of the council, Aisha Chugtai. So Chugtai is quite openly supportive of the DSA, in my opinion. And Elliot Payne, who is the president, she is the vice president, Aisha Chugtai. Elliot Payne, who is the president, generally votes with the DSA. So you got these four DSA, the two leaders vote with these sorts of ideas. They were elected by the members on the city council, so that kind of tells you that there's a majority that support that platform. There are four of them that are openly DSA, and then there are four others who a very large percentage of the time votes with those DSA members on far left positions. So the current city council, unless we turn it around, and it can't be just the re-election of the same members to turn it around. To turn it around, we have to defeat incumbents. Now, there's going to be one open seat, a couple, I say. But we need to change the members on the city council in order to turn this ship. There are, just kind of as an overview, there are three members of the city council that are, I would call them DFL traditionalists. They're liberal. The entire city council is very liberal. Jacob Fry is very liberal. But I would call them traditional DFL, understand that there is a place for business, and in fact, driving a strong market economy in the city of Minneapolis is good for those who are most disadvantaged and for the poor. It's good for them because it raises all boats. It provides more jobs. It provides a tax base that can provide services. And it allows not only for less unemployment and more jobs, but a better salary, better pay. That's what a strong economy and a strong market economy does. And even these liberal Democrats get that. So there are three of them who are on the 13-member city council now. I would say Michael Rainville, he's my city council member, and from the Barb Johnson, Alice Rainville family, two council members, from decades ago and more recently, who really were some of the best council members ever to sit in the city of Minneapolis City Council. Michael Rainville, Latricia Vitow, they're in wards 3 and 4, and Linnea Palmasamo in ward 13. So those three are not going to be voting with the DSA. No, they won't be. But those other 8, 4 of them kind of openly DSA supporters, and 4 of them who often vote with the DSA, Elliot Payne, Katie Cashman, Emily Koski, and Jeremiah Ellison, who's not running again, so there will be an open seat. Those four, along with the four I mentioned previously, Wansley, Chavez, Chugtai, and Chaudhry, are they make up a block. So that's 8 who generally vote together, 3 who generally oppose. That's 11. And the other 2 who are kind of swing back and forth are Jamal Osman in the Cedar Riverside area over in Ward 6, and Andrea Jenkins of Ward 8, who kind of swing back and forth. So let me just mention the names of those who can bolster and can create potentially a majority on the city council to push back against the crazy ideology that is being foisted upon us here in the city, and to join Rainville, Vitao, and Palmasamo. So against Elliott Payne, Brian Strahan is running. Against Robin Wansley, Shelley Medore is running. These are solid candidates. Now listen, they're not Republican, they're not conservative, they're liberal, and that's what's going to win in the city of Minneapolis. But they are not communists. They are not Democratic Socialists of America, Israel-hating anti-Zionists. They are not. So those two, and then in Jeremiah Ellison's seat, Pearl Warren is running. Now, they're also running a far-left candidate up there, and, it's a seat that it could be flipped. In Katie Cashman's ward, and she usually votes with the far left, to be very clear. Elizabeth Schaefer is running, and that's around the Lakes area. And Schaefer is a strong candidate running. Andrea Jenkins, who too often votes far left. Josh Baseas is running, and he's running a very strong campaign against Jenkins. Against Jason Chavez, Dan Orban is running. Chavez, again, DSA guy, very close to Ilhan Omar. Aisha Chugtai, one of the, in my judgment, worst on the city council. She is the vice president of the city council. Ward 10, Lydia Millard is running against her. That's along Lake Street there. That ward. Emily Koski, like Katie Cashman, votes often with the far left. Jameson Whiting is running there. And against Chaudhry, Becca Thompson is running. So that gives you kind of the endorsed candidates of the more middle of the road. And identifies where the far left candidates are to see whether we can jointly save our city. We had on the show not long ago Jim Rubin, who is a business owner in the city of Minneapolis, owns a number of real estate properties, apartment, multi-family dwellings in the city, in the inner city, that are to provide housing for low and middle income individuals and families. It's a critical element of a healthy, vibrant community. And it's being destroyed, as he talked about. He can't stay in business. And it's from the hollowing out of the city, from the regulation, from the overtaxing. but also from many of the ideas the Democratic Socialists have. We need to turn it around, and we need to do it now. Everyone needs to go out and vote if you are able and eligible, I should say, to do so in the city of Minneapolis. I strongly suggest you do. And send us a text or an email. Go to theandrewparkershow.com. Give us your email. Send us an email. If you're wondering, geez, who should I vote for? I live in Ward X. We're happy to help and give you a sense of that. You can text as well at 952-522-2818. The election is now upon us. Let's save what was once one of the most beautiful cities in the United States, a place so near and dear to my heart, and have enjoyed it so much, and now it has really changed for the worst. And if we can create an environment with neighborhoods and communities of people working together to have a strong marketplace business environment so that everybody can rise up and have an affordable, livable community where law and order is important, enforcement is supported, our police and fire are supported, our housing market is strong, our employment numbers are high. These are all things that really create a wonderful place to live. Go out and vote. Vote against socialism and communism. Vote for free markets and liberal ideals that Jacob Fry stands for, and so many of the city council members that I mentioned stand for. And give us a call or text us if you need background on any of that information. Until next time, be kind to your neighbor. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments. Mark Twain once quipped, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. When you are lied about and it spreads, the resulting mayhem and destruction can be, and often is, disastrous." Hi, this is Andrew Parker, co-founder of the Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm. I recently handled a high-profile defamation lawsuit on behalf of a luxury home real estate agent whose business was decimated by falsehoods spread about him. After nearly 2 years of litigation and 2 weeks of trial, the jury came back with a verdict of more than $2 million for our client. Parker Daniels Keyboard. We litigate cases, we try cases, and we win cases. With a record of excellence in achieving extraordinary results, Parker Daniels Keyboard lawyers have consistently won huge verdicts for its clients in the areas of defamation, civil rights violations, regulatory battles, and intellectual property theft. For wise counsel and winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, premier law firm in downtown Minneapolis. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.